Today, I got an email from a German tax attorney. Over 2 years after moving away from there. That can't be good. They don't write you out of nowhere just to say hi. Before even opening the email, I started shaking. My heart immediately skipped a beat. I was sweating. I know I had to still pay taxes for 23 for the last month I was in Germany. And I asked repeatedly, but all the attorney always did was said yeah, well, we still have time. I'm on it. There was nothing I could do. I wanted it to be over. I knew it was coming at some point, but nothing I could do. You know the show My Name is Earl? There's a scene where he's in a tax office and he wants to pay all the taxes from the past years because he was evading taxes. And he's there and he has cash in his hand and he wants to pay. And he's been told, sorry, you can't do this. What's this money for? We have no idea what you're doing. There's no paperwork attached. Please go. That's kind of how I felt the past 2 years. I know I have to pay. I didn't really know how much exactly. And I was always waiting for this letter to come, for the email to come, for the amount to be there. And in a way, I was constantly on the edge. But there was nothing I could do on my own. So back to the present day and the email I got. I was looking through the files my tax attorney sent me, and it was rows and rows of numbers. Countless Excel sheets. It's already hard enough when you're in the middle of a business year and in the middle of doing that company and the business and everything attached. Bookkeeping is already hard enough for me. But 2 years later, not in it anymore, everything felt like gibberish to me. I could not make sense out of anything. It was like, is this number correct? I don't know. I have no idea anymore. They have no reference anymore. I can just guess, seems okay. And then I come to the last page where it's like, okay, this is the amount of taxes you have to pay. And it felt way too high. And yeah, I know there's a lot of weird special cases attached. I sold the company car, I moved away from Germany, all that stuff. And I will not bore you now with weird bookkeeping stuff. That's not the theme here. I just want to make clear that it was a lot and I was overwhelmed. The point is, it felt too high. It felt like an amount where that feels like a mistake. And I do not want to pay too much money because somebody made a mistake. But after all, I felt okay. I thought, yeah, you know what? I kind of got this. Until my wife called. And it's not her fault. She just really wanted to check in with me because she knew about that. But the more I talked about it, the more I thought about it while talking, the more angry I got. The more angry I got about the whole situation, about me not knowing what the actual amount is, not able to follow the Excel sheet. And I got angrier and angrier, and I felt so anxious and so hopeless. In the end, when we hanged, I was fuming from anger. I was so pissed, so crushed. I felt, this is it. This will financially ruin me. There's nothing I can do. A couple hours passed and I calmed down a little bit. I was still super anxious and super angry, but I could think clearly again. And I decided I will call my dad. It was still early enough and I needed the opinion of a real grown-up. If you have the chance to ask a real grown-up, you should always do that. That's very important. He suggested to send him everything I've got, and he will just ask a second opinion at a second tax attorney in Germany. And that didn't solve anything in that moment, but it calmed me down. It gave me the calmness of like, okay, there is like a second opinion there. I'm not alone anymore. I was never alone in that in the first place, but I felt like it. And that kind of brought me back. Like, yeah, you do not have to decide anything on your own. You can ask for help. Help is there. And I was still very anxious about the money because it was, after all, it was a lot of money. But it calmed me down enough to really assess the situation. And after a while, I calmed down a little bit more and I could think again slightly more clearly. It gave me the opportunity to really came to the conclusion to think, there's a way out there. There's a way. I can see what I can do. There are ways out there. It's not so hopeless as it seemed. I mean, in the end, I can just burn my German passport and never return and just stay fugitive. Why not? I mean, that's what you see in the movies. Everybody always flees to Mexico. I'm already here. So I'm way past that. Yeah, obviously not really. I still have family in Germany and I do not want to be a fugitive. But I do have savings. I saved money over the years. I can use that. I have friends and family that maybe can lend me a little bit money and I can pay them back. And I know that is a very big privilege to have a savings account with money on it, to have friends and family that you can rely on and they are also able to lend you money. It is a privilege and it would be very dumb to not use it and to not think about that as a solution to calm me down and to actually solve this problem. And yeah, of course, it will hurt a lot to use my savings account if the amount they told me is actually the right amount and it's way more than I anticipated, and I have to basically use all my savings to pay that. It will hurt. It will be really annoying because it's also supposed to be for my retirement, but it's also for emergencies, and that is kind of an emergency. So that's what it's for. And the good thing is also, when I'm done with that, when I paid that, that is really the last thing that connects me with German bureaucracy. And believe me, being done with that, it feels like, that's the best. I feel like I can finally breathe again. I can leave that huge boulder just on the, like, there. It's done. I don't have to push this boulder any longer. I'm done with German bureaucracy. All's left is Mexican bureaucracy, but it's one less type of bureaucracy. I can leave that behind. So after that revelation, I was so much calmer. I was not so anxious anymore. I did not feel completely hopeless anymore. I was still pissed about the thought I maybe will pay way too much money because somebody else made a mistake and I cannot prove it. But in that moment, I've done everything in my power. There's nothing else I could do. I forwarded everything. All I could do now was wait. And because of time zones and everything, there's probably a couple days until I hear back from anybody. That was it. Like, I've done it. I exhausted everything I could do in that moment, and now I have to wait. Makes no sense to be super anxious, super angry for days on end without anything to do. So in order to really get out of this last bit of anger, of last bits of anxiety and catastrophizing that still lingered, I used a technique I think I talked about a little bit in another video, and that's kind of like a jury technique. It really, the point is you want to distinguish between what are you feeling and what is actually a fact. And you do it in a way, for example, my thought I was presenting the jury was, it will financially ruin me. There's no way out. Nothing I could do. This feels horrible. And that's it. I'm done. And the jury will ask you like, okay, but do you have evidence for that? And then you think, well, I feel very strongly that that's the case. I feel very hopeless. I feel I will be financially ruined. And they will come back and say like, cool, but that's a feeling. That's not really evidence. That's not holding up in court. That we can that's not proof. Do you really have evidence? And then you dig deeper in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your feelings to try to find evidence for that statement you just made. And you realize, not really. I don't really have evidence for that. There are solutions. They will suck. But there's no evidence it will financially ruin me and I will go to jail and never go back to Germany or any of that. There's no evidence for that. And then you form a different statement in your head. And it has to be set in reality. You cannot say like, well, I will just win the lottery, pay that off, no struggle whatsoever, because you will not believe that, because that's not really logical. There's also no evidence for that. So I made a statement like, okay, yeah, I will be able to pay even the higher amount, even if I cannot prove that there was a mistake. I will use almost all my savings. It will suck, but I'm able to do it. There's definitely proof there that I can do that. And it's based in reality. It's still annoying because it is. The reality is annoying. But there's no hopelessness anymore involved because there's a solution. There's a way out. There is no catastrophizing involved anymore. There is no, I will go to jail. I will never be able to afford anything anymore because I was able to make a savings account and save in the past. So there's no evidence why I shouldn't be able to now. So you rephrase it, and that helps you really shake off this basically cage you put yourself in that's only ruled by feelings. You put logic and actual evidence to counter that, to rationalize your irrational feelings. Because irrational feelings helps nobody. Catastrophizing is helping nobody. It just traps you in this spiral and stops you from finding a solution, and sometimes disregards an actual solution that is there because you're so much in your feelings, in your catastrophizing, in your there's no way out, that you seem to not notice the solution when it's right there, or you just shove it to the side because it feels that actual factual solution that sits right there feels irrational. And this technique kind of pulls the curtain and kind of really makes you face actual facts and what is fiction, or your very, very irrational feelings, your fake feelings in that matter. Like, the feelings are itself, they're not fake, but they're blown way out of proportion. So you really end up formulating a solution and a phrase you can believe in, that feels factual, that still honors your feelings, but your actual feelings, not your ballooned out of proportion feelings. And I completely acknowledge, and I will say here, that's not a fix-all solution. You will not suddenly change your whole life. And in fact, sometimes it's really extremely hard to use that, because sometimes you're so into your feelings, you're so deep in the spiral, you dug yourself a hole and you're so deep in there that you believe your feelings. You believe them to be actual facts, and you cannot use that technique. I've been there. You try and you say like, yeah, well, but this is the actual fact, but your brain knows your feelings are wrong, but it's overpowered by the feelings, and you're like, yeah, well, but it's hopeless. It's hopeless, and you can't go out of that way. In that case, just wait. It will calm down. Wait an hour, wait a day, maybe wait a week, and then come back and do this technique. Work on it. Because the feeling will dissipate after a while, but when you actually come back and really fact check and really come back and work through what actually happened on your own with this technique, you are future-proofing yourself in a way, because you will get less and less into this super hard catastrophizing, because after a while your brain will do this fact check on its own. I'm personally not at this stage, but I know it's true, because I'm doing so much better now. I'm actually able to go back and really fact check myself, and sometimes I catch myself in the act and stop. I stop catastrophizing, and I can really get to a solution and then enjoy the rest of my day. So don't feel bad when it doesn't work. It takes practice, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it's worth it. It's so worth it, because it takes also a lot of effort to be very, very emotional and catastrophizing and overthinking. It takes effort. We just don't realize it. So next time something like that comes up, even a little bit, because we're overthinkers, it will come up. It's inevitable. It will happen. But we can work on it. We can get better. I believe in you. If I can somehow deal with like cross-continental bureaucracy, you can also deal with whatever you have. You can do it. It is possible. There's always a way out. So next time, try this. Try it out. If you have another technique that really helps you to compensate, to work through it, let me know. I'm super open to trying out new things, because some things work better for other people. There's so many different things. So please let me know. Super interested. But until then, thank you so much for spending some time with me. Have a wonderful day and see you next time. Take care.